Welcome to the Morning Formation. This episode is powered by Act Now Education.
Or both aspects, fighting and military, has taught me leadership by example speaks volumes over the dude that just chirps from the sidelines, you know?
Warriors, fall in. It's time for formation. Ladies and gentlemen, standing across from your host today, at 6'3", 175 pounds, is a military service member who represents our community through his mixed martial art endeavors. Today, I'm very fortunate to be joined with an Air Force service member who caught my attention on social media when I saw a short video where he had severely broken his nose in 3 different areas during one of his fights last August. Now, this warrior opted to keep fighting during that fight. He even got it adjusted shortly after the fight with no anesthetics at all. Anyone who attempts to call him part of the chair force will face off against a professional with the determined will to fight and the self-motivation rarely found in today's society. I asked him to be a guest today on the Morning Formation podcast because I'm sincerely curious to learn more about this modern-day warrior who chose to join the Air Force. So Blake, I want to thank you for joining us on the Morning Formation podcast.
I appreciate you having me, man, taking the time. Yeah, like I said, I've seen some of the episodes and stuff, and I really like what you do, so I appreciate you having me on.
Oh man, the honor is all mine. It's great to find folks like you, especially modern service members like yourself. I got out in 2007, and I also have been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the last 11 years now, and I'm a purple belt. And over the years, I've created so many great relationships, and I have such a great respect for the martial arts community. So it's my honor to have you on the show today, Blake. And just to start things off, I'm uh, genuinely curious to know more about you. Would you mind telling us about yourself, where you're from originally, and why you chose the Air Force, and tell us about your military service so far?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to be on. And first off, that's awesome. I didn't realize you did jujitsu, so that's awesome. You're super familiar with it. Been rolling for 11 years. That's dope. Um, but yeah, so I joined the Air Force in 2017, June of 2017, and a 6-year contract with the Air Force. So I got about 6, 7 months left. But yeah, I'm in my first term with the Air Force. I'm originally from Ohio, in a small town called Jefferson. Closest big city is Cleveland. So like my MEPS and all that stuff was through Cleveland. And yeah, shipped out in June of 2017. Went through basic training and everything in Texas for the Air Force. And then after that, my first duty station was Hawaii. I was out there for about 3 years, a little over 3 years, from 2018 until about midway through 2021. Out there at Hickam Air Force Base, on Oahu in Hawaii. It's a joint base with Pearl Harbor. And then from there, I got sent to Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California in April of 2021, and been there since. And that is where I will finish my contract out. I'm a crew chief for C-17s, so just a lot of mechanic stuff for cargo planes. And yeah, it's been a super, super, super great experience so far. And I can't complain honestly with anything. I've gotten to do a lot of cool things, and have had 2 pretty awesome duty stations, Hawaii and California. So I can't complain, man.
Now, I want to ask you right off the bat because I did scroll through some of your chat on your Instagram, and a lot of people automatically assume that you were a Marine or you were in the Army. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm sure you experience this being, from being in the military yourself. That a lot of times, especially the people that aren't in the military, just call everyone the Army. For some reason, I don't know if you've encountered that yourself, but a lot of people, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They almost use the word military and army interchangeably if they're not familiar with the branches and stuff. So a lot of the times,
Right.
people will say army, meaning the military. That just that. and I don't want to be a jerk and correct them. So I usually do. I'll say, well, yeah, I'm in the Air Force, and then I describe it. But yeah, no, I get that a lot. Army, Marines, the tough branches. People are
Right.
surprised a lot when they hear Air Force, because you think the smarter guys. But what can I say, man? I can do both. Smart and tough.
Yeah, no, I think it's badass, man. I really
Yeah.
do. So a little bit about me, like I served 4 years in the Ohio National Guard enlisted. Then I went active duty as an officer. So I kind of got to see both sides of the coin when it comes to the rank structure, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, people. And while I was becoming a an officer, my university, which is Wright State, um, in Dayton, Ohio, which I'm sure you've
Hmm.
heard of it before.
Yep. Yep.
We had the ROTC, the Army and the Air Force ROTC, and there was a very stark difference in the physical training department, anyways, as far as the expectations. So I could see why the Air Force kind of comes with a stigma or a stereotype, anyways, of the type of person, and I think it's awesome, man. And when I saw that, I was like, this guy is a character. I got
I
to get this guy on
appreciate
my
it.
show.
I guess a lot of the stigmas are, they're there for a reason because, being in really good shape and stuff, to be like brutally honest with you, it's stuff I do on my own. I'm not going to sit here and act
Right.
like the Air Force PT standards are insane, or because they're not. Each branch has their purpose, and obviously the Air Force is a very technical, a lot of mechanic jobs, a lot of tech jobs, a lot of like intel type jobs. It's just that's what they're there for. So a lot of the times, the physical standards aren't insane to be in the Air Force, but I guess every branch has its purpose to make the whole machine work.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. Now, at what point in your life did you decide to start training in mixed martial arts and actually start fighting?
So I've always had an interest, since I was a little kid. I grew up wrestling in Ohio. I wrestled from junior high all the way up through high school and college, even out in Berea, Ohio, in the Cleveland area at Baldwin Wallace. But yeah, man. So I've always wrestled and loved that. And then I remember watching UFC fights and stuff with my dad when I was probably like 11 or 12. So the interest has definitely always been there, but I started to really take it serious after I was done wrestling. After I joined the military, I started taking jujitsu and stuff. And at first, it's kind of funny because I was like, I'll just, it'll be something good to get that competitive edge out, training and stuff. And then I started, training jiu-jitsu for a few months, and then it's that competitive drive and stuff never really goes away if it's in you. So I knew that I definitely wanted to do MMA. And then in 2017, I started training out in the Cleveland area, and then once I got sent to Hawaii is where I really really kicked it into gear. I was training out at a spot called United MMA on Oahu, and just really really started to make it my lifestyle and training, and just kept pursuing it to the point that I ended up getting my first fight that year.
Wow. And you know what's funny, Blake? When I first started looking into you and looking at your background, it's quite amazing how much we have in common geographically because I was born in Hawaii. I was born in Wahiwa, actually. Grew up in
Thanks.
Waipahu, and then I went to my father retired out of the army and went back to his home state of Ohio, and that's how I ended up in Ohio. Graduated high school in Ohio. I
Yeah.
wrestled in Ohio too, and I now live in California. So
Oh, really?
geographically, geographically we've been in all the same places. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
currently just outside of Los Angeles, but I can tell you, I want to underline and highlight this that sports in Ohio is a big deal. And I played football, wrestled, ran a couple years of track, and um, it was seriously like Friday Night Lights for football. And wrestling was super competitive, man, especially going into like a big city like Cleveland or Columbus and having to compete against those kids. So I could totally see how growing up where you did sort of set your trajectory into where you're at right now and what you're doing professionally in mixed martial arts, man.
yeah. That's. That's crazy. First off, the like how that worked out. I guess I didn't realize that those three areas. That's actually super super crazy. Speaking of Wahiwa, I was just there for like almost a full month for my buddy's training camp out. I flew out there and stayed at a spot and trained there all month for my buddy has a fight coming up. But anyway, yeah, growing up in Ohio, yeah, you said it perfect. And it's funny because I think it's kind of a product of a lot of times places where there's not a lot to do elsewise. I feel like sports really really takes over, because there's a lot of parts of Ohio where it's nothing but cornfields and just nothing for miles and miles. So what else is there to do besides be in a wrestling room as a kid or be out on the football field? So yeah, definitely it's definitely a hammer house for sure when it comes to, I would say those two specifically, football and wrestling are super big. Football in that whole area of the country, and same with wrestling. As Ohio, Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, that whole it's crazy out there. But yeah, it's cool how each area too has its own things. Because then fighting in Hawaii is crazy. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
swear, every little kid out there kickboxes or is doing some type of boxing or some type of jujitsu or striking or so no, it's definitely I was pretty fortunate to kind of the trajectory of where I lived. It just was like a perfect lineup, because I grew up in Ohio and then so that's where I got my base for athletics, and then my fighting base I got all out in Hawaii, and then now I'm out in California, so it worked out perfect.
Oh, I totally know. Like I grew up in Hawaii, so the pigeon English, you know, oh, you like scrap, you like beef. You the kind,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
it's just like I went from that to the cornfields of Ohio, like literally out in rural Madison County, Ohio, out in the middle of nowhere. So people out there were great, man. I actually have part of my heart is in Ohio, I always say, and I go back to visit, my old man and see a lot of my old teachers and some of my friends that still live out there. So I just thought it was kind of wild, man, that we're kind of geographically following each other.
yeah, yeah.
So this interview was meant to be, man. So
Yes.
I can tell you that over the years since I've been training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I've learned quite a bit just about myself, and I've got lifelong friends that I've traveled around, trained with, who lived halfway across the map, and it's certainly a different feeling when you train with someone in a combative sport such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. You sort of develop this closer relationship with them. Whether they end up putting you on your can or you put them on their can, and you have a good day, you have a bad day, you always find a way to pick each other up. And outside of the octagon and outside of training, with mixed martial arts, what has all of this taught you about yourself, your life, and your career?
I would say, to be completely honest, it's definitely taught me that this is like what I'm meant to do, if that makes sense, because I don't know, man. There's like nowhere else in my life that I truly feel like I've 100% fit in, and this is where I'm supposed to be at this very moment. I feel like everything else in my life I kind of do like for other people almost, if that makes sense, which isn't necessarily a
Mhm.
bad thing. It's not a complaint. However, I feel like most everything else I do is for other people or because I have to, in a way, and fighting is something that I do 100% for me, and I truly truly feel like I was like put on the earth to fight, just in some facet. I was just meant to endure and get through tough scenarios and come out on top, man. So but I would say that's one big takeaway just on like a personal level, like aside from competition, aside from even the training itself in the sport, because everything else I've done in my life professionally or it has been a job to me. I show up, do what I have to do, get paid so I can pay my rent. But
Yeah.
fighting is something that I would do for free 100% of the time easily. And it's just, I don't know. When I'm there is like the only time in my life where I feel 100% I'm doing something for me, that I'm
Yeah.
meant to be in that exact spot at that exact moment. And but yeah, I truly think that I'm just made for it, and I'm there for a reason.
Yeah, man. So do you plan on continuing this even after the Air Force and taking it up a notch?
Yeah, 100%. I think for sure. Definitely want to continue, and to be honest, I don't ever want to fully leave it behind. Even when I'm too old to compete and fight myself, I always kind of want to be in the world, of fighting, whether it's coaching or something. You know what I mean? Something, working with a promotion, doing something, or coaching or training or friggin' commentating. I don't know, something. But I don't ever fully want to leave it behind, just because it's been such a big part of my life since I was little, to be honest. Combat sports in general, like wrestling, fighting, whatever it be. But yeah, so definitely after the Air Force, I plan on even cranking it up, and definitely burning the candle at both ends, going as hard as I can, as smart as I can, while I still can,
Yeah.
and then down the road, when my time of fighting is up, I don't ever want to really leave it behind fully.
Yeah, I don't think you ever will, man. Like I've found myself over the years training others. And I definitely think that's an option for you forever, for always, to give that gift to someone else. And I truly think that it is a training gift that you can give other people to help them find that fire inside of them and help them push themselves to new levels of. I mean, because the reason I love grappling and I love jujitsu is because if I go in for a workout, I don't control that workout. My partner controls the workout. Now, if I go in and I decide to lift weights, I could pick up a 15-pound dumbbell and curl it.
Hmm.
Now, when I go in Monday morning and I go to train, the guys that are there that show up and the gals that show up, they're gonna be the ones that dictate pushing me to that next level. Like, I don't have a choice. I gotta like, once I get on the
Yeah,
mats, I gotta hold myself, right?
yeah.
And that's what I love about it, man. Like, it pushes me, and I love the way I feel afterwards. So, yeah, I definitely, I'm really looking forward to seeing, like, where you go after the Air Force, man. Are you planning on going back to Ohio and training there?
Um, that's a good question. I gotta kind of figure out my plan, to be honest, but I don't think so. At least not for right now. I'm always gonna visit and see friends and family, and that's always where my roots are. But I don't think so. I don't think I want to live there full time. Not right now. I kind of still, I like the nomad life a little bit. I like bouncing around, seeing places I haven't seen, going places I haven't went yet. And I kind of like that lifestyle, and I think I'm gonna keep it up for at least while I'm young. And keep my options open, keep exploring new areas, I think.
Now, Blake, the clip that I saw you on where you broke your nose in 3 places, man, absolutely amazing, man, that you still, I mean, you almost didn't even flinch after the clinch and the knee. You were so in the zone, man, and I love it. Like, I love that fighting spirit that you have. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and play the clip, and if you wouldn't mind just talking to us, sort of about it and kinda walk us through, like, what was happening or what were you thinking at the time. Is that good with you?
Yeah, of course, man.
Alright, so can you see that?
Yeah,
Alright, cool. I'll turn it down and, I'll just go ahead and play it. So this is where you're getting your nose fixed, right?
yeah.
Now, there's no anesthetics for this, is there?
No, unfortunately not. No, it was at a emergency room in Stockton, California, that me and my opponent both went to, Marcel McCain. So directly after our fight in Stockton, they made us both get in a ambulance vehicle, and we had to ride over there together. And yeah, no, he just had to do what he had to do right there with his hands. I forget the doctor's name, but he was super cool. But yeah, so you gave me credit for not flinching during the fight, but I'll give the credit to adrenaline for that, because that shit sucks afterwards. Because that was when I got it realigned. that was a few hours later by that point, probably like close to like 3. So I was relaxed and back in my normal resting state by that point. But yeah, I really didn't feel it much during the fight, but I definitely felt it when they were lining it back up.
Oh boy. I mean, you were pretty strong when they lined it back up. You uh the doctor even apologized to you and you were just like, "No, man, don't worry about it. It's not your fault. Thank you." Like you were very polite about it. And so in this clip here, I mean, you can see that you're in your corner right now and they're going to let this fight continue, right?
Yeah, I thought they were gonna, man, because so yeah, I was right. I ate a pretty good knee, man. I broke my posture, which is like Muay Thai 101, not to do. If I'm like helping out kids with their Muay Thai, that's like the number one thing that I tell little kids when they're in a clinch is not to duck their head and get broken down like that. So, I guess that's a good training tool for little kids for the future to keep their posture strong and keep their head up. But yeah, no, so I got kneed, and then like I said, to be 100% honest, it's just there's like so much chaos and stuff in a fight. It doesn't hurt like you would think, because the pain and all that kind of stuff came later. But during, it just felt like I got hit in the face pretty good,
Yeah.
and but between rounds, I honest to God, I felt okay. I even felt like the fight was going pretty solid, to be honest. Outside of that last flurry at the end, but I was hopped up. I was ready to go for the second round, but unfortunately, the doctor wouldn't let it continue. Which I can't argue. I was pretty amped up at the time. I was like trying
Mhm.
to get him to let me continue. Because I felt good, man. Like my body felt good, and I truly felt that had it continued, it could have went my way. However, I also get he's a doctor, so it wouldn't look great on him if he looks
Oh
at my
yeah.
face and he's like, "Yeah, you're good, bro. Go ahead." Like I get it, man. Live to fight another day. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good knee. I'll give it to him.
Yeah, man. I'm just a hobbyist. I'm not training to be a fighter. And even me in the last 11 years or so, having trained all the hours and hours and weeks and weeks of work that I've done and the different tournaments that I've been in, jujitsu tournaments, I've been pretty beat up too. Like I've actually torn my pec muscle, I torn my Achilles tendon,
Oh shit.
and so I know what you're saying, like about, and I'm now 42 years old. So now my concern is making sure that I stay limber and I stay flexible, for into the later years, so I can get out of bed. But a lot of people are very concerned about training any kind of martial art because they don't want to get hurt. And I'll tell you this, like I've trained, like I said, for 11 years, and I've had those two big injuries, but some of those injuries are related to my job as well, my full-time job. Um, for anyone out there that's thinking about training or has thought about training before, but they might be reserved or fearful to take that first step, what would you say to them?
I would say I think a lot of the times, like people probably have this like notion in their head that an MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or any type of combat sports gym, they probably have this idea in their head that it's like a bunch of like macho douchebags, that
Right,
are like gonna assert their dominance. You know what I mean? Like, which
right,
if someone had never done it, you think MMA or jujitsu, and you think, oh, I'm gonna go in there and just get murdered, and everyone's gonna like
right,
borderline bully me. You know what I mean? Whereas, from my experience at least, and I would imagine from yours, doing jujitsu as long as you have, that it couldn't be further from that. Like the most humble people I've met easily in my life are people that train some form of combat sports, because anyone who trains combat sports has gotten their ass kicked a million times. You know what I mean? No
right.
matter how good you are, you weren't always that good. Or I just think I truly think it makes better people, if that makes sense. Like more approachable, more people willing to teach, willing to learn. I think like I would definitely want my future kids to
Right.
do some type of combat, even if they never ever compete. I just think it's a good tool to learn, not only physically for defending yourself and all that, but just from like humbleness aspect and
Yeah.
from like the just the way you treat people. It's
And
I think
confidence, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Confidence and I truly think it makes good people. So I guess that's what I would tell someone that if they were hesitant to try it. I guess from that aspect, because a lot of times people probably have, I know a lot of times people have a wrong idea because all they see is a competition, right? And you see some
Right.
MMA fighter who looks like a psycho in there, and you're like, oh man, that guy's probably a jerk, or you see some dude in a grappling competition, you know, choking some dude out, you probably think he's, oh man, that guy's got to be mean. But from my experience, and I would imagine most people in the combat sports community, it couldn't be further from that. And people should absolutely do it if they have the desire to at all, even if it's a little bit. I think everyone should at least try it.
I agree with you 100%. Some of the most humble, confident, intelligent, friendly people that I've ever known have been some of my friends that actually do actively fight in
Yeah,
mixed martial art. And I think that sometimes when you train and you understand how to respect others and never judge a book by its cover, because I can tell you countless times I've rolled with people and I thought, oh yeah, okay, well this is just a little skinny kid or this is just a
yeah,
girl. I'm
yeah.
gonna I'm gonna molly. No, like somebody that's skilled, and you're laughing because you probably had these moments too.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from when you talk about what you were just talking about just now, and understand why you would want your own kids to train as well. Now, would you mind talking to us specifically, like between your military service and your mixed martial arts training and competing, has what specifically has all this taught you as far as leadership?
So I would say from I guess I'll start with the fighting. In terms of leadership, it's
Yeah,
really, I think, I guess actually it works for both. Both the military and fighting. But
right,
just it's people say it a lot, but lead by example. Because I know from being on a fight team, right? It's one thing to be the, especially I think today, and there's so many like Instagram fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
a lot of people do stuff for social media and want to put off this persona, but when it comes down to actually doing it, they're a different person. So I think leading by example is huge, man. Because it's one thing to be the guy that types out something on Instagram about being the hardest worker in the room, and then there you hear stories about they're just out partying all the time and never training. And so I think in terms of leadership, be the dude who's lifting after practice or doing sprints after practice, like be that guy, lead by example, and people respect that. And same goes with the military. It's everyone's had that NCO. Every person in the military has had that NCO who will gripe at you for this and this, and then they're the laziest worker in the shop,
Right.
and everybody knows that, and not even just the military. I'm sure anyone who has a job anywhere, has had that boss that's the first to bitch at someone for this or that or not doing something, and then when it comes down to the nitty gritty and hopping in the trenches with your guys, they're nowhere to be found. So I think just both assets or both aspects, fighting and military, has taught me leadership by example speaks volumes over the dude that just chirps from the sidelines.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that you say that because one of the reasons why I want to cover that today is because I've been having a lot of folks who are executives who've never been in the military before have mentioned to me things along the lines of leadership and how rank has its privilege and all these different things. And I'm like, no, not necessarily, because even when I was a lieutenant or when I was a captain in the army, if my soldiers were outside doing something in the rain, then I would be outside doing something in the rain as well. So I love what you say about that, man. Is you know, talk the talk, walk the walk, right? And
Yeah,
that's you know, that's an excellent point that you bring up. So your future plans, you do plan on getting out of the military, right?
I do.
Okay, and then from there, you haven't really mapped out where you're going to go or what you're going to seek next.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, man. I was hoping you'd have something for me. You got like employment in your office over there. I'm gonna need a job
Oh,
here pretty soon. No,
yeah, man. Actually, no, I'm seriously, I'm a board member for Act Now Education, and so
oh
that's a
yeah,
military non, yeah, it's a military nonprofit where we help with the transition process. But yeah,
okay,
man, we'll talk offline because
okay.
I do I do know some potential opportunities for you.
Oh, hey, there we go. But yeah, no, I plan on getting out. Like I said, I got about 6, 7 months left on my contract. If not, right at the end of my contract, I might do extension for up to about a year. Just to give myself a little more time to kind of really get my feet underneath me. But first and foremost, I definitely, I'm definitely gonna run with fighting and take that as far as I can. My
Right.
ultimate goal is to get paid to the point that that can be my full time job. Between training and fighting, that be what I do. Because I get paid currently. However, to be brutally honest, it's nowhere near sustainable living. I right now where I'm at in my career, I could never just do that and make it in the world. So I have to have a job to a normal job. But yeah, so I got about, like I said, probably I do have 6 months left in my contract. I might extend for about a year. But other than that, I plan on getting out, maybe using my GI Bill, going to school, and then just. But first and foremost, definitely fighting full time and continuing that is my top on my list for sure. That's happening no matter what my day job is.
My hats off to you, man, and having those dreams and those goals. And we'll definitely have to talk offline because I do have some resources for you to take a look at. And before we end this episode, Blake, would you like to share any final pieces of advice or words to live by? Maybe something that we didn't cover during this episode.
Yeah, sure. So I guess in terms of advice, at the risk of sounding corny and preachy, I just say
Mhm.
do something that makes you happy. Because I feel like there's so many people that just go to work and go home, which is totally cool if you're passionate about your job, if that makes sense. So there's got to be
Right.
some outlet in your life you have passion, I guess. So whether it's your job, something you do after your job, your kids, your family, whatever, something that gets you going, because there's so many people in my life I know even that I'm close with that just wake up, go to their job that they complain about, come home, watch TV, repeat. And it's like,
Right.
damn, man, no wonder you're depressed. That's a rough way to live for anybody. So yeah, I guess like it's nothing groundbreaking or new to hear, but I say just, do that thing that gets you fucking pumped up. Go do it, man.
Dude, listen, I've already talked to my buddies and we're training Monday morning.
Hey,
And
there we go.
and listen, I'm already thinking about it and I'm already excited about it. And I'm not
Yeah,
trying to wish my life away. I have a lot of stuff going on this weekend that's,
yeah.
the UCLA USC game that I'm going
Hey,
to is
okay.
exciting. But I'm thinking about Monday morning when I go in there and I train with my buddies. I love it because one of the things I didn't mention there in this show, man, is over the years, we all go through rough times, and I've been through some rough times like everybody else. You have two choices. Either you can go to the bars and deal with it through alcohol and doing all the things you're not supposed to be doing, or you can put yourself in a gym. And any time that I've ever had those rough patches in my life, I have been very fortunate to have the will and to have that, I guess, that instinctual first step out of the way already because of my history, to just find a gym and go train. And things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu have really kept me um, in the kept me in the right, but then kept my mind clear and focused on what I need to do. And I guess this isn't the mixed martial art podcast, but I talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling and things like that because it has meant so much to me over the years. It really has. And I have some of the best friends that I've ever had that live all the way across the map. But I know that if I ever needed something, they'd be right here. And these are my previous training partners. And so, it's a very deep, meaningful thing for me to have someone like you on, who kind of serves both purposes. You're a military service member, and you're also doing this great thing in mixed martial arts, and your perseverance through that fight, man, and how tough you were. It's an absolute honor for me to have you on right now, on this show, and just to highlight you. So thank you so much, Blake. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man, for everything. Yeah, having me on, and it was just good to talk to you. I learned a lot about you too that I didn't know before this, so it's pretty cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I haven't done a very good job at talking about myself all that much, according to some people. But if anyone out there is interested in following up with you, Blake, what social media platforms can they find you on?
So all I really have is Instagram. And my handle is Blake MMA 170.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. And I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this on a podcast on audio, scroll down to the show notes, at the description down there. You'll see them at the bottom. If you're watching this on YouTube, same deal.
Same deal.
Check out the description. You'll see how to follow Blake as well. So for Blake, thanks again. I really appreciate your time today. For everyone else out there, I just, as always, want you to stay tuned, stay focused, and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out.